What would Andrey Santos bring to Chelsea? In this video, we will answer this question, so stay tuned. Like, share, subscribe.
They tell me that I'm never gonna make it. They want me to do something that could make sense. They hate when I keep dreaming I'll be famous, but I don't give a fuck, I'ma keep chasing.
Alright, now the first aspect is the profile. Now, Andrey Santos is an all-action midfielder who almost resembles a classic box-to-box type. The 5'9" midfielder has a large presence on the pitch at only 18, due to his athleticism, which also allows him to be everywhere at all times. He has often been played in a double pivot in a 4-2-3-1, where he protects the back four and also moves up the pitch to be a presence in the box during attacking phases. So this is just like the basic of Andrey Santos. Obviously, for most people, they would know that Chelsea signed him in January 2023 from Vasco da Gama in the Brasileiro Serie B league. So they're a club that participates in the Brasileiro Serie B league, and they're aiming to obviously get up to the Serie A or Serie A. I'm not really sure how you pronounce the A in the probably it's A. Probably it's A, you know, because you have it's probably, you know, Portuguese and the A. But you know, anyways, that's the profile of him. So first thing is the profile. Okay, now for the little analysis, and the first thing is danger in the final third. Before Andrey Santos moved to Chelsea, he had scored 8 league goals in 33 appearances for Vasco da Gama in the Brasileiro Serie B or B season. For a holding midfielder, that is a high tally, which highlights the young Brazilian's desire to get into goal-scoring positions from deep areas. Now, obviously, for those people who have been watching and keeping up what he's doing at the moment of this recording, of this video being recorded, he's participating with Brazil in a little competition, and recently he scored 2 goals. At the time of recording this video, he scored 2 goals. One, I don't remember the first team, but I know that he scored another goal against Argentina. The under 20, 21, depending on which age range you want to consider it to be. And he's a goal scoring type of player, so that's a positive for the future, considering that Chelsea are aiming for longevity with these players. Now, part of Santos' goal scoring record is down to his impressive shooting abilities. Santos has the instinct and mind of a striker, with smart finishes dependent on the goalkeeper's position and the placement of defenders. Furthermore, he has the ability to strike the ball with either foot, although he has been inconsistent with the connection and power on some of his shots. Santos also has a combination play in his locker to combine with attacking players to set himself up for the perfect shooting opportunity. In the image on the screen, we can see Santos combine with a teammate before breaking into the box and setting himself up for a finish. He opens up his body, which allows him to aim the shot towards the far post and precisely curl it into the top corner. So obviously on the screen, you're able to see Andrey Santos in the box with 2 other teammates supporting him and 3 defenders, with one closely on his left trying to win the ball from him, but he's still able to curl it, and the arrows there pointing to show you the angle, the area in which the ball will hit. And also obviously you have his teammates are also behind him, as well as that opponent that is just behind him that's trying to run in to try to make an impact. And obviously you can see the goalkeeper's off his line, way off his line, and leaving a wide amount of space on that right side. While the midfielder is mostly known for his energy and goal scoring record, he can still be a creative influence in the final third. Santos has the vision and creativity to find teammates in space with different types of passes. These passes are usually made behind the defensive line, where the player has space to run onto the pass. Andrey Santos has demonstrated his incisive passing through line-breaking passes along the floor and carefully weighted passes over the top. In the example on the screen, you can see Santos play a perfectly weighted pass between the 2 central defenders, putting his teammate through to be 1v1 against the goalkeeper. Once again, we are able to see his positioning, and it's a similar situation, 1 player behind him as well. 3 defensive players, or rather 4, are trying to run back. 1 Obviously, you see the teammate that is very wide open. The defender closest to him, his back is turned to him, and he would have to shift very quickly to try to catch up. But based on the angle of this picture and based on the angle of the arrows pointing, obviously his teammate is very close, or is likely to be 1v1 with the goalkeeper. Some may say he looks offside. I personally would agree. Or he would be just about onside based on the right foot of that defender closest to him. So obviously, we're able to see the positioning, the vision, and the passing ability that Andrey Santos possesses. While he has demonstrated the ability to perform these kinds of passes, it has not been a common occurrence. And the total XA, which means expected assists, of just over 2 from 33 games, shows that he is the player who prefers to be on the end of these kinds of passes. Santos is a goal scoring threat, and his biggest asset as a player to any side is his ability and determination to make late runs into the box. The Brazilian has scored several goals for Vasco da Gama this season, which is obviously, like I stated before, but to be specific, it was 8 goals through runs from deep areas where he can arrive in the box totally unmarked and free to shoot with no marker disrupting him. This example on the screen shows the desire Santos has in his attempts to get into goal scoring positions. We can see him darting into the space behind the defensive line and demanding for the ball to be played into him. So like I said, you can see him right in that top right side. He has competent amount of space. You can see the play with the ball. He's getting ready to make that clearing pass, that curling pass over to him, or potentially make him, or perhaps try to make that pass from right where the referee is to find him. But obviously that would be a case where the defender, the player that's in a defensive position to block that shot, or pass rather, would be able to block it. But you can see the arrow that is pointing in the angle, or the area that is being aimed for. From these deep runs, Andrey Santos has displayed composure and great finishing abilities by putting the ball into the back of the net with all sorts of finishes. He can place the ball with the inside of his foot, shoot with power, and have the power and position to header the ball into the back of the net when running onto crosses. So obviously that is just a little overview of what he can bring, or the danger that he can bring in the attack. Alright, so for the other aspect, this is the influence in the build-up. In his own half, Santos has struggled slightly under pressure, and it is an area in which he needs to improve to become a complete midfielder. Although he isn't perfect, the 18-year-old has displayed strong ball carrying skills. He's a powerful runner and can use his speed to carry the ball past defenders into open spaces behind them. When facing a player in his own half, there is usually space for him to knock the ball past them and beat them to progress the play further up the pitch. The image on the screen perfectly illustrates the power Santos has to carry the ball past 4 players to beat the mid block and allow the team to attack the defensive line. So obviously you see the picture yet again, where you have a player close to him on his right, and then you have a player on his left, slightly far from him, and obviously there's also a teammate for him on that area on his right, his far right, correction, and you have those 3 players as well. So obviously that is an aspect that it needs to be noticed. Now, his ball carrying ability is one of his biggest threats. It allows him to be a threat on the ball in every part of the pitch. In his own third, these powerful drives allow him to drag the team up the pitch, which can help the team penetrate the opposition box. Santos takes responsibility by picking up the ball and driving into the box, from where he can either pass, shoot, or cross the ball from a dangerous position. Under pressure, Santos hasn't always been the most reliable player in the build-up phase. Santos doesn't seem fluid enough to quickly turn on the ball when a player is pressing aggressively. As a result, Santos receives the ball with the opposition player right behind him while he still faces his own goal and has to pass backwards. Although this can happen too often, Santos has the ability to use his physicality when players get too tight. Andrey Santos has a powerful frame and can use his body to protect the ball from unrushing defenders while turning on the ball. This image below shows you how under immense pressure Santos can actually escape trouble by protecting the ball from opponents. The image on the screen highlights this ability to ride challenges through his strong core, thus making his ability to protect the ball with his body one of his bigger assets. Yet again, you see it, Andrey Santos is highlighted, and you obviously see where he has to do what he's doing. Now, Andrey Santos has displayed a lack of awareness during the build-up phase, which can cause him dearly. A lack of scanning means that he is often unaware of where the opposition are and can lead to him being unreliable under pressure. Furthermore, in the image below, Santos' close body shape means he can't see what is behind him and puts himself in a position where it's hard for him to turn on the ball as well. As a result, it becomes obvious that the pass will be played, and with little disguise, Santos can be too predictable. In the image, he loses the ball and gives the opposition possession of the ball in his own third. Now, obviously, I decided to not only highlight the aspects that are positive and focus on the negatives as well, because he's a young player, meaning that he's not perfect, and optimism should be high, but also not that high that you think he should just come in and boom, just like that he renovates the whole team, which is not likely. But the picture on the screen is basically to let you know that he has his unreliability as well, but also he has aspects that if he improves on, he will be an excellent player for the future. This lack of awareness makes him unreliable, like I said, during the build-up, and leaves him as a player who is most suited to being in the second and third phases of play. In addition, Santos at times doesn't show up for the ball during pressured situations, although that could have been what the coach had probably instructed him to do. So obviously that is the influence in the build-up play, and obviously the next part will be the defensive tenacity. Now, the defensive tenacity aspect of this video is going to be the final aspect. This video is one of the longer videos because I wanted to highlight the aspects that he needed to work on, like I said. Now, Santos' physical capabilities and work ethic off the ball make him an extremely strong defensive player, and one of the reasons why he has often been deployed in the holding midfield role. His engine allows him to be constantly in the game throughout the entirety of the match, while his mobility and speed allow him to cover large amounts of ground. The map of him that you can find online covers almost all the space between both boxes, and he has legs to cover the whole pitch laterally as well. Santos is an extremely busy midfielder off the ball who enjoys the defensive part of the game. The 18-year-old thrives in the 1v1 situations where he becomes tough to beat in these scenarios. He's patient and doesn't give in to tackles, but rather waits for the opportunity when he knows he will win the ball. He is agile enough to react to changes of direction and has the running power to keep up with quick dribblers. In the image on the screen, Santos wins the ball back for his team after the opponent tries to nutmeg him. From this tackle, he plays a clever lofted ball over the top, which leads to a last gasping winner for Vasco da Gama. So you can see it in the picture. His legs are wide. It's like he's saying, "Try to nutmeg me," but it could be seen as a tactic to say, "Okay, give me the ball easily, and boom, I'm gonna create something, and I'm gonna lead to a chance being created." Obviously, you can see him highlighted, and you see the player right in front of him. Andrey Santos also has superior defensive intelligence, which leads him to perform a higher number of defensive actions each game. His reading of the game and positional intelligence allows him to be in the right place to make those defensive actions in each game. Santos has shown an ability to scan off the ball, look for potential threats, and identify the highest risks, where he can anticipate passes that will be made. This leads to him gaining a large number of interceptions, like the one pictured on the screen where he was aware of the passing lane and quickly shuffled over there to intercept the ball before it reached the forward player. So like I said, this is the final aspect, and this is the final image I'll be showing you, where you see him there highlighted with the name and everything. You see a player in close proximity to him, you see his teammates being surrounded, and you see a player that is marking him from a distance. So obviously you can see that these are aspects that, even though he has a lot to develop in, there's a lot of positives when you think about what he can do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace, keep blue flag flying high, and cheers.